As D.I. Reed pushed through the heavy doors of Lehman Street Police Station, he was immediately met by a throng of press, anxious locals and shunters struggling to contain the crush. Reporters barked questions. Some citizens shouted accusations. Others just looked terrified.
"What the hell's going on?"
Reed muttered, scanning the chaos. Walt appeared, weaving his way through the crowd and guiding Reed into a side room off the main corridor.
"Talk to me!"
Walt shut the door behind them.
"Another woman, Gov. Early hours this morning. And when I say done, I mean really done."
Reed narrowed his eyes.
"How bad?"
Coroner's still working on it, but
Walt hesitated, shaking his head.
it's not good.
Reed was silent for a beat. Then he looked back through the glass panel in the door toward the front desk, where voices still rose above the din.
"I think we'd better take a look."
Walt nodded grimly. A cab was called. In the early morning light, the streets of Whitechapel stirred to life. A faint glow illuminated the grime-laden alleys as labourers trudged to their posts. Gaslighters extinguished the street lamps, and costermongers began arranging their wares. Amidst this awakening, Rosie, a weary 28-year-old, approached a modest lodging on White's Row, a gnawing dread settling in her stomach. Inside the cramped 12-by-14-foot room, 3 men awaited. Murph, a burly figure, sat at a battered table, dealing a game of solitaire with a deck worn from dubious use. In the corner, Bash, a hulking presence, lounged on the floor, while on the sole bunk lay Moorish, a feral-looking scallywag. The remnants of a fire smouldered in the hearth, casting fleeting shadows on the peeling walls. The rent was overdue, yet the widowed landlady, intimidated by Murph's reputation, dared not press the matter directly, often channeling her appeals through Rosie. The door's creak announced Rosie's entrance. Murph didn't glance up, his focus on the cards. She approached the table and tossed 3 shillings onto its scarred surface.
"That ain't gonna cover the bloody rent,"
Murph muttered.
"Who said it's for the rent?"
Rosie retorted. Murph continued his game.
"Why didn't you bring him here?
He wouldn't come. Insisted on renting lodgings. He's married?
Got money, has he?
Yeah.
Worth rolling?
Yeah?
Murph snorted derisively.
With your charm, surely you could have persuaded him."
Fuck off. I'd like to see you do better.
The words escaped before she could restrain them. Murph's gaze hardened, his finger jabbing the air.
"Tell me to fuck off again."
Rosie's defiance waned.
I'm sorry.
She murmured, her voice tinged with pleading. The tension thickened. Seeking to diffuse it, she ventured,
Maybe we could get some chloroform or something. You know, do him over proper like.
Murphy's stare remained unyielding. She offered a tentative smile, hoping to placate him, but he didn't waver. From the bunk, Moorish, now awake, observed the exchange, reflecting on Murphy's capacity for cruelty and questioning why Rosie endured it.
I'm sorry.
She repeated, her fear evident.
"Ease up, Murph.
Moorish interjected.
At least she earned some money."
Murphy's eyes shifted to Moorish.
"Oh yeah?
He nodded toward Rosie.
You wanna fuck her, do ya?"
Moorish met his glare, a subtle smile playing on his lips, refusing to back down. Sensing the escalating hostility, Rosie pleaded,
Come on, lads.
Murph's attention snapped back to her.
"Who the hell do you think you're talking to?"
He spat. She involuntarily stepped back. From his corner, Bash stirred.
"I swear, Murph, one day they'll lock you up."
Murph turned to him, sneering.
"Look who's come to life."
A beat passed before Murph chuckled, the room's oppressive atmosphere lifting slightly.
"I know.
Murph nodded, a smirk on his lips.
I should not be at large."
He returned to his cards, eyeing the coins on the table.
"Can you find him again?"
Rosie nodded.
Yeah, I think so.
Murph's smile widened.
"Good girl."
The costermonger couple were always first in the market, their barrow bright with flowers. Mary Jane knew that was the best time to catch them. Leaving Ringers after an early morning boost, she hurried through the market, dodging carriages, costers, and a butcher driving bleating sheep to slaughter. She held her skirt high to keep it from dragging in the muck that slicked the street. The flower seller's wife spotted her before she reached the barrow.
"She's not here for that, Ernest,"
the woman said. Her husband, all smiles, offered a bouquet anyway, then caught on.
Oh, right.
The woman rolled her eyes, fished out a twist of sphagnum moss, the good kind that kept blooms fresh, and passed it over. Mary Jane laid down fourpence and gave her a knowing smile.
They don't know how lucky they are, do they?
The woman said.
Ain't that the truth?
Mary Jane was turning to leave when a tap landed on her shoulder.
Hello, gorgeous!
Julia said with a grin. Mary Jane's face lit up.
How'd you get on last night? I saw you talking to that red-bearded bloke. Then you disappeared.
Julia pulled a face.
He's just off a steamer on leave. Bit flush, but didn't even cover all the rent.
Mary Jane raised her brows.
Better than nothing.
It's all a bit shit, innit?
Julia nodded at the moss in Mary Jane's hand.
Not for you, though. Can't remember the last time I could afford that.
Barney paid?
Mary Jane said with a shrug.
He's still at the fish market.
Mary Jane nodded. Julia smiled.
You've got a good man there.
He's all right,
Mary Jane said, smirking.
Works long hours, though. That's the best bit.
Julia laughed, then her smile faltered.
My old man's been sick. Not much work lately.
Mary Jane saw the strain in her face.
Sorry, love. I wondered, seeing you out every night.
You know how it is.
Julia's voice wavered.
Could be worse, though. Maria. She's so desperate, she paid that woman to look after her baby.
Mary Jane's stomach dropped.
Not the old cow flowers on her frock?
Julia nodded grimly.
Evil bitch she is,
Mary Jane said, anger rising.
I told Maria. She says it all the time now. What have I done, Julia? And I don't know what to say. She tried to get the boy back, but the old woman claims he's with new parents in Manchester.
You don't believe that, do you?
Julia shook her head.
But you can't say that to Maria. She's already broken.
Mary Jane clenched her jaw, memories pressing in.
Someone needs to deal with that old bitch, once and for all.
Julia leaned closer.
And no one's seen Rosie Lee since the old woman supposedly helped her with an abortion.
You don't think?
Wouldn't put it past her.
Mary Jane's rage was barely contained. Julia squeezed her shoulder.
Don't get yourself worked up. It's not your fault.
Mary Jane gave her a tight smile.
It's just one thing I can't abide, Julia.
She hesitated.
Where does she live?
Julia eyed her suspiciously.
Why?
Just curious.
I'm not sure. I know she's got her own lodgings. Earns well, so they say.
Mary Jane's voice was flat.
Must be a lucrative trade. Murdering kids.
Julia gave a weary shrug.
Shunters don't care. Out of sight, out of mind.
The church bell tolled. Julia glanced away.
I'd best get back to the old man.
Hope he's better soon.
Mary Jane slipped a crown into her pocket.
Oh no, I can't.
Don't be daft. If I've got it, my friends don't go short.
Julia hugged her quickly.
Thank you.
Mary Jane watched her go, the moss crumpled in her hand. Her smile faded. The old bitch, flowers on the frock's face, that smug, knowing look, sat in her mind like a splinter.
Lehman Street Station had returned to its usual chaotic normality. Reed sat behind his desk, papers stacked high, fatigue shadowing his eyes. Walt slouched in the chair opposite. Eli stood by the wall, notebook in hand, always ready. Reed stared at the mortuary photograph in front of him. A woman from the chest up, eyes closed.
No one knows who she is, then?
Walt raised both arms, palms out.
Not from 19 George Street, anyway.
You believe that?
Walt and Eli exchanged a dry laugh. Eli flipped open his notebook.
What have we got so far?
Reed asked, rubbing his brow. Eli read from the page.
A couple named Mahoney got home around 2 a.m. Nothing on the landing then. Francis Hewitt, superintendent at George Yard Building, says he didn't see or hear anything strange.
Reed snorted softly, unconvinced.
Then, at 4:45,
Eli continued,
a man named John Reeves left for work and found the body, flat on her back, half naked, lying in a pool of blood.
He glanced up.
PC Thomas Barrett was called. Doctor named Killeen too. You know him?
Reed shook his head.
Doesn't ring a bell. Go on.
Dr. Killeen estimated time of death around 2:30 a.m. She was stabbed 39 times in the lower abdomen and once through the heart. No signs of struggle, no screams reported.
Reed and Walt shared a look.
And no one saw or heard a thing?
Reed said flatly. Eli shook his head. Walt spoke up.
Oh, there was a carman named Albert Crow who came home after 3 o'clock, said she thought she was sleeping, claimed it was so dark he couldn't really see much.
He didn't bother to check.
Again, Eli shook his head. Walt leaned forward.
Barrett did mention one thing. Said there was a soldier hanging about the corner near George Yard. Questioned him. Bloke said he was waiting for a mate who was with a girl.
Reed narrowed his eyes.
Could be our man.
Could be.
Walt agreed.
Or could be he was telling the truth.
Either way.
Reed said, pushing back from his desk.
Let's have a word with him. Start with the barracks. See if anyone matches the description. And check the ships too.
Reed added.
Anyone docked overnight might have come ashore for a little fun.
Reed nodded.
Wonderful.
Walt muttered ironically. Reed gave him a half-smile. With equal irony,
I know you love your work, Walt.
Cooney's was bustling at dinner time, the clatter of tankards and low murmur of conversation filling the air. Macca leaned against the bar, chatting with the landlord, a half-drunk pint in his hand. The door swung open, and in walked Farrow and Caleb, their eyes sweeping the room before making a beeline for the bar. The landlord paused his conversation with Macca to serve the pair. Macca turned, giving them a nod.
All right, Farrow. How's tricks?
Yeah.
Farrow replied with a nod.
All right, Macca. And you?
Well, you know how it is.
Got anything going?
Macca grinned.
Maybe.
His eyes flicked to Caleb, and with mock surprise he took a step back.
My word. Caleb, when'd you get out?
Caleb gave a nod of acknowledgement.
Been a while now.
Good. Been okay?
Caleb shrugged, offering a wry smile.
Better than turning the crank, I suppose.
Ain't that the truth? Feels like it gets grimmer by the day around here.
The landlord set down 2 beers in front of Farrow and Caleb. Farrow handed over the coins, then took a long swig, before Macca leaned in slightly.
You seen Turner lately?
Farrow shook his head as he swallowed.
I wish. I've been looking for him for over a week.
Macca gave him a pointed look.
His missus got slashed last night.
Farrow froze mid-drink, eyes widening. He turned to Caleb, his expression darkening.
You're joking. I was only speaking to her the other day.
She say anything?
No, just that she hadn't seen Turner. Ask Caleb.
Caleb nodded in agreement.
She did seem a bit scared of something, though.
She didn't elaborate.
The 2 men shook their heads.
Nothing at all.
Caleb hesitated.
She did mention something about the raid on the Black Swan, but nothing much.
Well, she ain't gonna say anything to anyone anymore.
Macca muttered. Farrow exhaled sharply.
Maybe that's the point.
Macca continued. Yeah, but stabbed 39 times, the landlord said as he shook his head. That's a bit extreme, isn't it?
You are joking,
Farrow asked, eyes widening. Shunters were in here earlier. Said it themselves. The 3 men fell silent, the weight of the conversation sinking in. The plan was set. Rosie would lure the mark, keep him distracted, and when the moment was right, Bash would chloroform him from behind. Then they'd drag him back to the rented room, strip him of everything worth taking, and leave him locked inside. By the time he woke, disoriented and penniless, he'd have no clue where he was, forced to call for help in a part of the city where the locals were anything but helpful. That was the plan. But now, as morning crept in, Murph paced the room, his temper barely contained. No sign of Rosie, Bash, or the poor bastard they were supposed to roll. Moorish thought about speaking up, maybe trying to calm Murph down, but he knew better. Then, at 5:50, the door creaked open. A tired-looking Rosie and Bash stepped inside.
Where the fuck have you been?
Murph's voice thundered through the room. Bash held up a hand.
It's all right, Murph. Hear us out.
Rosie stepped forward and dropped 2 shillings onto the table. Murph's face darkened.
Is that fucking it?
He spat.
No!
Rosie snapped back, a rare defiance in her voice. She wouldn't usually speak to Murph like that, but she knew Bash had her back this time.
Let her finish,
Bash added. Rosie took a breath.
Dimmy, he runs that club on Berners Street, right? He also sells jewellery.
Murph's scowl held, but he was listening now.
And?
Bash grinned.
He shifts his stock down at Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
Rosie continued.
And every night he brings the day's takings and whatever jewellery's left back to the Working Men's Club in Berners Street.
Number 40.
Bash added.
On his own.
Rosie emphasized.
With nothing but a little horse and cart?
Murph's expression flickered with intrigue. Bash chuckled.
At 1 in the morning, Murph. It gets real dark at 1 in the morning.
Rosie smirked.
And he was meeting me at Dutfield's yard. Didn't want his missus to find out.
Murph rubbed his temple as if shaking off a fog.
All right, so why the fuck didn't you just rob him there and then?
Rosie grinned.
Because some men get chatty after they've spunked, Murph. Say things they shouldn't.
Yeah,
Bash said, still grinning.
I was about to put him under when he started rambling about his routine.
Murph looked between them, realization dawning.
So I thought to myself.
Bash went on.
Hold on there, Bash. There's a real killing to be made here.
Murph's grin spread slowly.
You know which route he takes?
That won't be hard to find out,
Bash said.
We'll watch him for a couple of nights.
Murph glanced at Moorish, who was smirking from his corner. Then he looked back at Rosie. He winked.
Good girl.
The 10 Bells was buzzing. Laughter and shouts bounced off the smoke-stained walls, and the crowd's spirits were riding high, lifted by the shared warmth of drink and noise. Mary Jane was in fine form after taking in a show at the Cambridge Music Hall. Barney, nursing a pint, enjoyed her buoyant mood. She was great company when she was like this. But the night soured when a group of young women from further south of the city made themselves known. They stood out, done up like West End finery, but with the sneering mouths of pickpockets.
Oh, look, girls,
one of them quipped loudly.
I told you if we came to Whitechapel we'd see plenty of horse shit, and there's a prime example dressed for the gutter.
Mary Jane turned, eyes narrowing, and found them all in a huddle, sniggering and casting glances her way. Barney nudged her.
Ignore them, babe,
he muttered. Julia was at the bar. She leaned in and murmured in her ear.
They've been here a while. Think they're the dog's bollocks.
Long Liz joined in with a dry chuckle.
Yeah, they reckon they're a cut above, just 'cause they wear fancy gear from up west.
Which they probably fucking robbed anyway,
Julia added, grinning. Mary Jane kept her glare locked on the group. One of them, probably the ringleader, rose from her chair and sauntered towards the bar, hips swaying like she owned the place, staring Mary Jane down with every step. Barney's hand closed on Mary Jane's arm. She brushed it off. As the head girl drew level, still holding her gaze, she sneered,
Next for the blade, are you whore?
Mary Jane gave a dismissive laugh.
Least I earn a living rather than steal someone else's.
Is that what you call it? I'm surprised shit like you can get anyone to pay.
Yeah? Shit like me? Rich coming from you.
The woman stepped closer, breath sharp with gin.
You're not fit to lick my arse, whore.
Mary Jane smiled sweetly.
Prove it.
Barney's hand was back on her arm. Mary Jane hissed,
Fuck off!
They were nose to nose now.
You and me, outside!
The head girl snapped.
After you,
Mary Jane said, all honeyed venom.
High-class ladies first, dirty whores last.
The crowd had quietened, eyes following as the pair made for the double doors. The head girl went to step through. Mary Jane insisting again.
No, please. I insist.
The moment the woman turned her back, Mary Jane seized a fistful of her hair and slammed her head 3 times into the wooden doorframe. The crack of bone and the splatter of blood drew a chorus of gasps. The head girl crumpled, blood pouring from a split above her eyebrow. Knowing she was outnumbered, Mary Jane was already moving. She pushed through the doors into the cold street, Barney close behind. The rest of the gang poured after them, shouting abuse as they tried to tend to their bleeding leader.
You fucking bitch!
The woman screamed, voice ragged with pain.
Yeah, so what are you gonna fucking do about it?
Mary Jane shot back, raising 2 fingers in a filthy salute before stalking off towards Dorset Street. Barney's dark stare kept the pack from following, though their snarled promises of revenge carried down the street until the 10 Bells was out of sight. The cold had hit them as soon as they had stepped out of the 10 Bells. The street lamps threw long shadows across the slick cobbles. Ahead, Whitechapel lay darker, quieter, the howls of abuse from outside the pub fading with every step. Mary Jane's hands still trembled, not from fear, but from the rush of what she'd done. Barney said nothing, his boots clicking hard against the stone, his eyes scanning the street behind them.
Thanks for backing me up,
she snorted, the irony in her voice sharp enough to cut. Barney stayed silent. Even as she spoke, her gaze kept darting over her shoulder. The narrow alleys between buildings yawned like open mouths, the gaslight unable to reach more than a few feet into their depths. They crossed Commercial Street, past a costermonger packing up his cart. He glanced at them once before going back to stacking bruised apples into a crate. Dorset Street was almost silent, just the echo of bootsteps, the faint rattle of a carriage somewhere far off, and the drip-drip of water from a roof gutter. It was darker here, the gas lamps fewer, the glow from Macca's shop spilling weakly across the broken paving stones. The street stank of damp brick and unwashed bodies. A drunk slumped against a doorway outside Crossingham's, mumbled something into his chest as they passed. Mary Jane's earlier bravado began to drain away. The weight of the night pressed down on her, a kind of cold that had nothing to do with the weather. Barney walked beside her, saying nothing. As they neared the archway, the street stayed quiet save for the slow creak of a shutter somewhere above. Mary Jane's skin prickled. She could feel eyes on her from the shadows. Was it just paranoia? She thought of the head girl's quip, "Next for the blade, are you, whore?" and felt a shiver run through her. She quickened her pace toward the narrow arch. The scrape of a boot on stone made her stop and turn. Nothing. Barney frowned.
"What is it?"
She shook her head, dismissive. That comment had cut her deeper than she'd admit. At the door, Mary Jane waited as Barney reached through the broken pane and slid back the bolt. They stepped inside. Mary Jane closed the door behind them and leaned against it, pulling a slow, heavy breath into her lungs. Barney didn't notice, but Mary Jane was rattled. Badly. Mary Jane slammed the door in Barney's face, but before the latch even settled, he shoved it open and came storming back in, eyes wild and fists clenched.
"What the fuck's wrong with you?"
he barked. She stood firm, staring him square in the face.
"Fuck you!"
she spat. She swung at him, but he blocked the slap with ease and shoved her backwards. She stumbled, caught her footing and roared,
"Bastard!"
Barney's shoulders dropped slightly as his temper cooled, just a fraction.
"What the fuck's got into you?"
he said, voice a bit softer now.
"Thanks for backing me up,"
she shot back bitterly. He blinked, confused.
"Backing you up? I stopped you from getting your head kicked in."
"Bollocks!"
she snapped.
"Mary Jane,"
he said, more serious now.
"there were 6 of them. 6 of the fuckers, ready to tear into you if I hadn't dragged you off."
She scoffed, still defiant, still half-cut.
"No, there wasn't."
Just then, the door creaked open again and Macca stepped in, rubbing sleep from his eyes and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else.
"What's all the fucking noise?"
he grumbled.
"You'll wake the whole court. Beth's trying to get some kip next door."
Mary Jane pointed an accusing finger at Barney.
"It's him."
Barney raised his hands.
"No, it's not,"
he said, feigning innocence. He turned to Macca.
"She got into it with some of the lot from the Elephant."
Macca groaned.
"Oh yeah, I know the ones."
Mary Jane was ramping up again, her rage bubbling back to the surface.
"Don't they fucking love themselves, though? Like Julia said, they think they're the dog's bollocks."
Macca nodded.
"All the lot down there do. Run around in their little pack thinking they're hard because they've always got someone behind them."
Barney chuckled.
"Yeah, I noticed that, especially when Mary Jane here smacked their top girl's head into the doorpost of the 10 Bells.
He looked over at her, eyes glinting with admiration.
3 times.
"Bitch asked for it,"
Mary Jane muttered, still simmering. Barney laughed harder.
"You should have seen it, Macca. She weren't expecting it. Mary Jane really done her."
Mary Jane joined in, the memory fueling her rage.
"Yeah, and then all her little mates come swarming out, gobbing off at me, calling me a dirty whore, saying they were going to cave my head in."
Macca gave a shrug.
"Don't let 'em get to you. They're brave in packs, but you split 'em up. Not one of 'em lasts 5 minutes on their own."
He eyed Mary Jane carefully. The flush in her cheeks, the wildness in her eyes. Too much gin. That vulnerable side of hers was leaking out again, buried just beneath the fury.
"You gonna be all right now?"
he asked. She nodded, a little too quickly.
"Good.
Macca said, glancing between them both.
Maybe now you two can keep the fucking noise down now and let the rest of us sleep?
Mary Jane snorted.
Yeah, right.
Macca smiled faintly and slipped out, shutting the door behind him. Mary Jane staggered to the bed and collapsed in a heap. Barney sat beside her and started unlacing his boots.
Take my boots off, will ya?
She mumbled. He turned to her.
You cheeky bitch.
But she was already asleep. The street, the chaos, the gin. It had all caught up to her. He finished tugging off his boots, then gently pulled hers off as well, setting them neatly by the dying fire. Then he lay down beside her, eyes heavy, and let himself drift into sleep too.
Caleb sat on the edge of a dilapidated bed in a dingy, airless room. The walls were blackened with years of grime, and the floor was damp, the kind of filth that never truly dried. He took a slow swig from a ginger beer bottle, the taste doing little to lift his mood. That was the problem with living at the bottom, he mused. Boredom had a way of creeping into the soul, making space for the kind of thoughts a man was better off without. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open. Farrow stepped inside.
All right, Caleb.
Caleb didn't move.
You took your time.
Farrow nodded, closing the door behind him.
Yeah, been keeping a low profile.
Caleb frowned.
How come?
Farrow sighed, rubbing a hand through his hair.
Well, it's no secret I'd been asking Martha about Turner. Now the shunters want a word.
Caleb narrowed his eyes.
Yeah, but you got a cast iron alibi, don't you?
Farrow gave a dry chuckle.
That's the point, I haven't. I was working a job with Ivan at the time.
Oh.
Caleb considered this for a moment, then shrugged.
I wouldn't worry about it. You'll be all right.
Farrow shrugged back.
Yeah, fuck 'em.
He grinned, then eyed the bottle in Caleb's hand.
What the fuck you drinking that piss for?
Caleb lifted the ginger beer with a wry smirk.
It's all I could afford.
Farrow snorted and pulled a bottle of whiskey from his coat, tossing it onto the bed.
Extra bonus from our friends,
he said.
They want you to do a little job for them.
Caleb's curiosity piqued.
Oh, yeah.
Farrow nodded.
Yeah, take a trip down to the Black Swan. Check out the new management.
Caleb swirled the whiskey in his hand.
You know much about them?
Farrow shook his head.
Nah, just that they're from the highway.
Caleb gave a slow nod, uncorked the whiskey, and took a long, satisfying swig.
The woman was shaking. She took her drink, downed it in one. The Princess Alice was heaving, jovial, bawdy, full of laughter and spilled beer. Normally, Pearlie would have enjoyed the noise, maybe even been lifted by it. But not tonight. Tonight her nerves were too tight, her thoughts too loud. She slid her chair back and stood, forcing herself to move. She wasn't exactly asked to do this. More like strongly advised. Advised that it would be in her best interest to cooperate. Out the door she went, into the rush and bustle of Commercial Street. The air was thick with smoke, sweat, and the stink of horses. Her destination, Lehman Street Station. Her task, to help the shunters with their investigation. The question gnawed at her. Would they believe her? And if they didn't, would it still be enough to keep her out of trouble? D.I. Reed listened carefully. He wasn't entirely convinced. He rarely was. But for now, what he was hearing seemed plausible enough to believe, or at least to pursue. The dead woman, Emma, had been friends with Pearlie for months. They'd been out together the night of the murder. Around 11 o'clock they'd met 2 soldiers. By midnight, each had left with one. That, Pearlie said, was the last time she'd seen her friend. Reed watched her closely across the desk. Then he slid a mortuary photograph across to her. Pearlie looked at it. She nodded.
Yeah, that's her.
Emma?
Reed asked. She nodded again, quieter this time.
Yes.
Reed gave a faint nod in return.
She's since been identified by her ex-husband,
he said.
Name's Martha Turner, also went by Tabram.
Pearlie blinked, stunned. But only for a moment. She straightened slightly, quick to protect herself.
I always knew her as Emma.
Reed didn't question it. Not yet.
Do you think you'd be able to identify the soldiers if you saw them again?
Pearlie nodded, more eagerly this time.
All right,
Reed said.
We'll arrange an identity parade.
He paused.
Where can we find you?
Crossingham's Dorset Street.
Reed nodded again. A half-smile touched his face. Not warmth, just routine courtesy.
All right, we'll let you know.
He stood, opened the door, and gestured her out. Pearlie didn't say another word. She just walked. Crossingham's Dorset Street. A few feral dropouts loitered around the entrance of the lodging house, faces gaunt, eyes darting. One smoked a damp roll-up, another scratched at lice beneath his collar. Pearlie, shawl tight around her shoulders, slipped through the front doors in a hurried scurry. She checked the street in both directions, eyes wary. Then she hurried off, keeping close to the shadows. She'd had second thoughts. An identity parade at the barracks? Not for her. She muttered under her breath.
Time to disappear.
Back at Lehman Street, Eli stood in Reed's office.
No sign of her.
Reed leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling, incredulous.
You're joking!
Wish I was, Gov. No one at Crossingham's has seen her in days.
Reed snorted.
Likely bloody story. She probably heard you were coming and she's hiding in a fucking cupboard somewhere.
Eli shrugged, helpless.
Sorry, Gov.
Reed gave him a long look.
Think you can find her?
I should, given time.
Reed nodded slowly.
All right, I can't give you Walt. He's still checking the docks. Take PC Kemp. He'll be useful.
Right you are, Gov.
Eli turned and left. Reed sat in silence for a moment, the noise of the station murmuring behind the closed door. He sighed, long and low. Walt spent his day down by the docks, questioning sailors alongside a uniformed PC. Most of them knew nothing. Some pretended not to. A few were too drunk to care. Nothing useful came of it. Eli, meanwhile, had the dubious pleasure of trudging from lodging house to lodging house, from Flower and Dean Street to Dorset Street and beyond. Everyone knew him as Tommy Roundhead, and as a big man with a reputation, most gave him a wide berth. He could handle himself, and they all knew it. Macca, over at the chandler's shop, scratched his head and said the last time he'd seen Pearlie was weeks ago. Jono, from Cooney's, claimed he couldn't remember the last time he saw her at all, and Eli didn't even bother asking Hewitt. If Hewitt couldn't hear a woman being murdered outside his own door, he wasn't going to spot a potential witness for the coppers. PC Kemp tried a different tack. He spoke to shopkeepers, barmaids, and barmen across the area, polite but firm. Nothing, not a whisper. Nighttime chaos reigned across the streets. A drunk, reeking of an odor so foul that even the lowliest dropout gave him a wide berth, had missed the cue for the spike. No coin for a lodging house either. So he'd come up with a madcap scheme, smash a shop window and hope the nearby shunter would arrest him. One night in the cells would mean a warm bed. But the shop he picked had a zero-tolerance policy, and the owner and his right-hand man had dragged him out back and beat the living shite out of him. Now he was carrying the banner, drunk, bruised and bleeding, and found that cold streets hurt more than hunger. Eli and PC Kemp had wisely decided to work in pairs, given the rising tension in the streets. They questioned a string of women working the roads, most of whom were openly indignant. Why weren't the shunters catching the killer? They asked, instead of looking for Pearlie. Eli and Kemp didn't explain. Didn't need to. They got the usual attitude anyway. Shrugs, sarcasm, silence. Years of mistrust didn't vanish, just because the coppers came asking polite. Eli and PC Kemp had stopped to speak with a stationary duty officer on Commercial Street, swapping notes in the flickering glow of the gas lamps. Soon after, Walt joined them, his coat damp from the drizzle and his expression grim. They stood together, the night still loud behind them, arguments, drunken songs, footsteps echoing in alleyways.
Nothing,
Eli muttered.
Not a trace,
said Kemp. Walt rubbed his chin, staring down the length of the street.
Either someone's hiding her,
he said flatly,
or she's fled the district.
Eli nodded slowly.
She'd be smart to. Can't say I blame her.
They stood in silence a moment, letting that settle. Then Walt sighed.
Right. Back to the slog.
And they split up again, fading into the Whitechapel night, each chasing ghosts down different streets.
Another day, another cacophonous assault on the ears from the endless traffic of Commercial Street. The hollers of costermongers, the grunts of butchers hauling carcasses, the clatter of horse-drawn carts, drivers and carmen shouting abuse at pedestrians, vying for space on streets that offered none. It was chaos, but it was normal. Eli stood still, taking it all in. He watched the flow of trade and survival with quiet curiosity, scanning the crowd with a trained eye. Right now, he was at a loss. Then it happened. A woman, head and face buried in a shawl, brushed past him hard, bumping into his shoulder. No apology, no glance back. She simply carried on walking, swallowed into the crowd. Eli scowled. Manners these days were dreadful. But as he turned, he noticed something tucked into his coat pocket. He reached in. A small folded piece of paper. From an alcove near the Britannia pub, Ma watched him read it. She lingered just long enough to see him unfold the message. Then, satisfied, she disappeared into the crowd. Eli read the note. Only 2 words. Covent Garden. He exhaled sharply and nodded to himself. That explained a lot.
Tower of London. Reed, Eli, and Walt stood stiffly beside Pearlie, facing a new line of soldiers in immaculate formation.
Well?
Reed asked, tight with impatience. Pearlie stood with her arms akimbo, chin raised, wearing an expression of cool detachment. She scanned the line with exaggerated slowness before finally shrugging.
He ain't here.
Reed narrowed his eyes.
You're sure?
Yeah.
Pearlie replied.
The soldiers that night had white bands round their hats.
Reed turned to Eli and Walt. Walt rolled his eyes. Reed turned back.
And you never thought to mention that?
Pearlie shrugged again.
Didn't know I had to.
Reed sighed, long and controlled, the sound of resignation.
Fine. I'll arrange another identity parade. Coldstream Guards this time.
Pearlie offered no reaction. Reed stepped in closer and leaned toward her ear, lowering his voice.
Don't decide to disappear, Pearlie, or I'll find something, some nice trumped-up little charge, and you'll spend a stretch at Her Majesty's pleasure in Wandsworth. Don't think I won't.
He leaned back, eyes still fixed on hers. He gave her a smile, thin, tight, not quite comforting. Pearlie didn't smile back. Reed gestured slightly toward Walt.
Now, be a good girl and tell my colleague here where we'll be able to find you, all right?
Pearlie nodded, a little taken aback.
A hot summer day. Wellington Barracks, Pimlico. A row of Coldstream Guards stood to attention on the sun-baked parade ground. Inspector Reed and Pearlie walked the line, eyes scanning the faces.
Well?
Reed asked, voice flat. Without hesitation, Pearlie pointed out 2 soldiers.
That one, and him. I think one's a corporal.
She had no idea. She was bluffing, but she made it sound convincing. Reed eyed her carefully, skeptical, but said nothing. It wasn't much, but it was all they had.
2 days later, Leman Street Station. Reed sat behind his desk, eyes tired, fingers tapping. Eli and Walt stood opposite, both wearing the same look.
Really?
Reed muttered, rolling his eyes. Eli shrugged.
Sorry, Gov. Both with solid alibis.
Walt chimed in.
One was home all night with his wife. The other was on leave in Essex.
Reed nodded slowly, absorbing the disappointment.
Typical.
He sighed and leaned back.
Any sign of Pearlie?
Eli shook his head, a trace of shame in his eyes.
Gone again.
Reed smirked bitterly.
Wonderful. Any good news?
Walt shrugged.
If anyone knows anything, they're not saying. The streets are clammed up tight.
Reed looked down at the floor, then blew out his cheeks.
Back to square one.
He glanced up at them both.
Get the boys back out there. Ask around. Rattle cages. Turn something up.
Eli and Walt both nodded and moved off, already bracing for another long night on the streets.
The slum streets of London, 1888, stank of filth and desperation. Smoke clung to the damp air, mixing with the stench of rotting waste and unwashed bodies. The gas lamps flickered dimly, casting long, broken shadows over the cracked cobblestones. Caleb and Farrow moved through the alleys like carrion birds. their boots sloshing through the muck. This was their benefactor's territory, carved out in blood and fear, and they walked it with the confidence of men who knew their employers inspired fear on their particular manner. They went door to door, business to business, their presence alone enough to make shopkeepers pause, hands tightening over the day's earnings. No one wanted to pay, but they all did. Fear had a way of loosening purses. At a butcher's stall, the owner, a thick-set man with blood under his fingernails, glared as Caleb tapped the counter.
You're a little light this week, Thomas.
The butcher scowled but pulled out a handful of coins. His fingers trembled as he laid them down.
Business has been slow.
Farrow snorted.
Slow don't change a thing, you know how it works.
Caleb swept up the coins, weighing them in his palm.
Try harder next week.
They moved on, a baker, a pawnbroker, a gin house. The routine was the same. Resentful glares, muttered curses, but always payment. No one dared refuse. They knew what happened to those who did. Caleb and Farrow were just collectors, but also reminders. A reminder that powerful forces always lay behind the daily lives of everyone.
Macca wiped his hands on a rag, the scent of oil and dust thick in the air of his cramped chandler's shop. Dorset Street never changed, always a breeding ground for the desperate and the damned. When the door creaked open, he looked up with the tired suspicion of a man who'd seen too much. Two men stepped inside, strangers. Macca didn't like strangers. They had the look, sharp eyes, heavy hands, the quiet confidence of men who weren't used to being refused. The taller one, Murph, drifted toward the counter, while the other, Bash, lingered by the door, his presence a silent warning. Murph leaned on the counter, all easy charm.
Marker in.
Macca studied him.
That depends. Who's asking?
Murph, this here's Bash.
Macca's eyes flickered toward the other man, then back.
And?
Murph's smile didn't reach his eyes.
Adams sent us. Says you can supply certain items.
Adams?
Macca's tone was flat.
Yeah, Adams, from the Finians.
Macca's expression darkened.
Macca doesn't deal with the Finians.
Murph didn't argue. Instead, he reached into his coat and placed money on the counter. The gesture was casual, but the intent was clear.
Not what Johnny Upright said.
Macca smiled, but there was no warmth in it.
Well, now I know you're bullshitting because Johnny Upright wouldn't say such a thing.
Murph slid a small brass emblem, along with some money, across the counter. Macca stared at it for a beat, then met Murph's gaze.
Not what I heard.
Murph said, his voice just a fraction softer, but the weight behind it heavier. Macca glanced between the two men. They weren't shunters. That much was certain. But they weren't the type to walk away empty-handed either.
What do you want?
Murph leaned in slightly.
Webley.
Macca barked out a laugh.
That'll cost you.
Murph shrugged.
I'm not fussy.
Macca eyed him.
What for?
Murph grinned.
Keep the pigeons off my turnips.
Silence hung between them for a moment. Then Macca sighed, moved around the counter and locked the door. When he returned, he reached beneath the counter, pulling out a revolver, scuffed, worn, but still deadly. He placed it on the wood with a dull thud. Murph picked it up, turning it over in his hands, inspecting the weight.
That the best you got?
Macca folded his arms.
It's all I got. I run a chandler's, not an armory.
Murph let the silence drag, then smirked.
No need to be like that.
Macca wasn't amused.
Tell Adams he's a cunt.
Murph chuckled, slipping the revolver into his coat.
Ammo?
Macca dropped a box onto the counter with enough force to rattle the wood. Murph took it without another word, gave Bash a nod, and together they turned for the door. Murph turned back to Macca, almost as an afterthought.
My mate here has been a bit lonely since he moved into town. I also had it on good authority. You might be able to set him up with a bit of entertainment. Not the usual well-worn variety, but a younger, fresher incarnation of after-dinner frivolity.
Macca looked hard at the men.
Why would I be able to supply that?
Why not? Our money is just the same as anybody else's, and I wouldn't want my mate here to get bored. He's full of pent-up rage, and you know we all need a little something to relieve those pent-up feelings.
Macca stared. He did not like to be threatened.
Why the fuck should I care?
Murph smiled.
Mr. Adams would be very pleased to know you did all you could to help me and my friend.
After a moment of staring Murph out, Macca produced a pencil and tore off a piece of paper from a poster on his wall behind him. He placed them on the desk and pushed them towards Murph.
Leave an address and a time you'll be in on there.
Murph smiled wryly, walked to the counter and wrote an address and a time, and passed them back to Macca. Macca picked them up and placed them in the front of his leather apron.
I'll see what I can do.
Murph nodded. Bash smiled.
It'll be a guinea, though.
Murph raised his eyebrows quizzically.
For my time and her time and the home visit, of course, at a specific time and place.
Murph looked towards Bash. Bash nodded an okay, and they went to leave. As they stepped out onto Dorset Street, Macca called after them.
Don't come back!
The Black Swan was near silent, save for the low murmur of voices and the occasional clatter of glass as Lucy cleared the bar. The air was thick with the staleness of spilled beer, sweat and smoke that had long settled into the wood. It was past 1, the kind of hour where the world outside was dead, and the only ones left awake were the restless, the drunk, or the damned. Tommy sat slouched at the bar, nursing the dregs of his drink. His brother sat beside him, rolling a matchstick between his fingers. Lucy moved sluggishly, gathering empty tankards, her steps heavy with exhaustion. Tommy's eyes flicked toward her, and something about the slow way she worked irritated him.
For fuck's sake, hurry it up!
He snapped. Lucy flinched, her hands tightening around the glass she was holding. She didn't say anything, just lowered her head and worked faster. Gabe turned to him with a scowl.
What the fuck's wrong with you lately?
His tone was half annoyed, half curious.
You're always angry, over nothing.
Tommy exhaled sharply through his nose, running a hand over his face as if trying to wipe something away.
I don't know.
His voice was quieter now, but there was something raw in it.
I just always feel,
His brother snorted.
Just always feel what?
Tommy shook his head, staring blankly at the counter. His fingers drummed against the wood, restless, twitching.
I don't know.
A pause. Then, softer, almost to himself.
I don't know why.
His brother watched him for a long moment, then went back to rolling a cigarette. Lucy kept cleaning, her hands moving faster, as if trying to finish before Tommy's temper turned on her again.
Mary Jane slammed the door behind her and stormed through the archway, stopping just long enough to catch her breath and gather her thoughts. She was fuming, absolutely fucking livid. Another fight, another pointless, stupid fucking argument. Fuck, she hated Barney. Why did he have to be so goddamn unreasonable? Always in one of his moods, always taking his shit out on her, like she was the cause of all his fucking failures. She'd had enough. She needed a drink, and not just one. Fuck him. Fuck all of them bastards. She cursed under her breath and took off down the street, heading for Ringers, her mind seething, her boots hammering the cobbles. She hated her life, hated every miserable, pathetic inch of it. Up ahead, Hutch was coming the other way. She didn't mind him sometimes. He could be all right in small doses, but other times, the lecherous grin and sideways comments rubbed her the wrong way. Right now, she really couldn't be asked.
"Hello, gorgeous,"
he said as he reached her, that familiar look in his eyes. She thought about ignoring him. Probably should have, but it wasn't in her nature.
All right, mate,
she muttered, brushing past.
"What are you up to, girl?"
he asked.
Getting fucking pissed.
She snapped without breaking stride.
"Oh dear, need some company?"
he said with a wink.
Not really,
she replied, ready to carry on her way, but then paused, reconsidering.
Unless, of course, you're gonna pay for my drinks all night,
she added, flashing one of her cheeky smiles, the kind that usually wrapped blokes right round her finger.
"I'd love to, darling, but I'm skint."
She nodded, gave him a wry smile.
Never mind. Maybe next time, yeah?
She started off again, but Hutch called after her.
"Any time for you, lovely."
Yeah,
she muttered under her breath.
That's what they all say until they've got to part with some fucking money.
And with that, she headed straight for Ringers. With the meagre shilling she'd kept secret from Barney, she'd seen Flem during the week while Barney was at work, and he'd charmed his way into her bed. She couldn't help it. She still had a soft spot for him. Flem had slipped the shilling to her as he left. Mary Jane knew it wasn't enough to drown her shit life. But then again, there was never enough alcohol for that. What she really craved was decent company. And at Ringers, there was always someone to have a laugh with. Maybe a bit of a flirt with one of the lads, something to brighten her mood. Maybe even a sing-song if the night took that turn. It didn't matter much. It was the warmth of people, the noise, the sense of not being alone. And later, she'd drift down to the 10 Bells for more of the same. There was something comforting about the crowd. A gang of like-minded souls with their inhibitions shelved for the night by a few jars. Far better than being stuck in that cramped, grim room with a miserable bastard sucking the joy out of the air. Within 5 minutes of soaking up the buzz inside Ringers, her spirits had lifted. The weight in her chest eased, and the pain of her abject, grinding life faded into the background. Well, temporarily at least, the apology hadn't made a difference. She knew he meant well, but the pain, the weight, the grim pull back into the dark pit of her depression was all too real the moment Mary Jane stepped back into the court. She was well-oiled and just wanted to collapse on the bed. Barney, not keen to be stuck in that shithole of a room himself, had popped out to the Blue Coat Boy with his brother Danny. He'd had a couple of jars and a maudlin chat about women, nothing too heavy. He wasn't half as drunk as Mary Jane. In fact, he was a little frisky and riding the buzz, now in a good mood and looking to end the night with a bit of slap and tickle. Mary Jane couldn't be arsed. But fuck it. If it kept old Misery Guts happy, then so be it. With any luck, he wouldn't notice she was struggling to stay awake. It wasn't worth the row to say no. As her old mother had once told her, "If you want your man pliable, drain his balls." Another bout of grunting and groaning, one-sided, selfish pleasure from him, did nothing to lift her mood. If anything, it made the downward spiral worse. But thoughts of the cheeky phlegm were just enough to hold the deep despair at bay. He could be just as bad, but at least phlegm made her laugh. Sometimes, anyway.
Next morning, Macca had waited at the shop window first thing to see if Barney had gone looking for work again. He had. Macca called for Harry to look after the shop, and he slipped next door to see Mary Jane. He did not like the look of Murph, but knew Adams was a man to keep on the good side of. Macca would ask Mary Jane to do the job. He did feel a tingle of guilt asking her, but her and Barney were already behind in the rent.
Mary Jane had mastered the art of masking fear. She could walk into any situation, no matter how vile, with the calm of a summer's day, smile soft, eyes steady, shoulders relaxed, as if nothing in this world could touch her. But inside it still gnawed, a slow daily erosion, a quiet rot chewing holes in her soul. She lied to herself, told herself it didn't matter, that this was life, that this was choice. But every job took a piece. Every time she pretended not to care, she cared a little less about herself. Tonight was one of those nights. She turned into Osborne Street and found the place, a narrow doorway leading to a tiny, damp-ridden room. Half in darkness, the only light came from a dying candle on a table and a weak fire shivering in the grate. 2 men were waiting. She'd never seen them before, Moorish and Bash, both feral-looking, both reeking of cheap spirits and sleepless nights, eyes sunken, knuckles scarred, the kind of men the streets chewed up and spat back out meaner than before. They didn't see a woman when she entered. They saw an outlet, an escape valve for rage, frustration, poverty, and all the things life had denied them. Mary Jane felt the atmosphere hit her, not lust, not desire, something darker, pent-up aggression wearing the shape of men. If it had been one-on-one, maybe there'd be rules. But together? Drunk, egging each other on, drowned in laddish bravado and the bitter stench of hopelessness. There would be no respect tonight. Her instinct screamed, "Leave! Leave! Now!" But Macca had sent her, and she didn't want to let him down. When it was over, she could barely stand. Bruised, split lip, ribs aching, dress torn, skin littered with finger marks. She made her way home in the dark, every step a reminder of what her body was worth in this world. Barney was waiting, eyes widening the moment he saw her.
Who did this?
He demanded, already reaching for his coat.
Tell me who.
It's fine,
she lied, voice flat.
Just the girls from the 40 Elephants. They caught up with me.
Barney froze.
Those thieving cows?
His jaw tightened.
Barney?
She grabbed his arm.
Leave it.
He hesitated. She was hurting, but she wasn't crying. He'd seen her fight the 40 Elephants before. It made sense, and she knew exactly how to lie so he'd believe it. Barney slowly let it go. But in the shadows of the room, Mary Jane curled in on herself, silent. And the dread inside her grew a little larger. Macca, however, knew the truth the moment he saw her. His eyes narrowed. He didn't ask. He didn't have to. Somebody had crossed a line, and words were going to be had.